You mean this time? While I like the avoidance of the text crawl in Rogue One, not everyone did, so this feels like a nice compromise. I'm gonna be hard on the DP and editor later, but this blacked out scene cutting light in by the hot wiring of the speeder is beautiful and a stellar intro for Han. And speaking of introducing a character that already exists portrayed by someone else, you may not agree, but that breathing right there is very OG Han for me. A dark, grimy, lawless street panned up to show an Imperial destroyer being built to make sure we know we're still in Star Wars, but at best the manufacturing sector.
It's good work.
This is gonna work. Kira, you always said one day we're gonna get out of here. This is it.
Or you could just have your dragons burn all your enemies.
Malik, hi. How are you? I was just on my way to see Lady Proxima.
Since this is the second time we're seeing this tactic fail, imagine how many times this worked for him to keep trying it like this.
You walked away with nothing.
I ran away with my life. I think that's something.
Silver linings.
Breaking fish.
I just don't think I'll ever get sick of the dinosaur-looking sweet alien voices and language sounds in Star Wars.
This is a thermal detonator that I just armed.
That's a rock. And you just made a clicking sound with your mouth.
Yeah, that's Han. Having him get away with lying through his teeth as a kid goes a long way in making his reckless behavior in the future more believable.
Now this is pod racing.
While not the most exhilarating chase ever, it does a great job of showing off the world they're coming from, sets up his relationship with Kira, and further establishes Han's outlawish behavior.
Watch this!
Even stormtroopers are scared of the Syndicate. Good way to beef him up.
Sold to Crimson Dawn or the Hutt Cartel.
Jabba's got a whole cartel now? Or had Jablo Escobar? It's, they were just set dressing, but you make them as good luck charm from the past and it gives them more importance in the future.
Luck.
Join the Empire, bring order and unity to the galaxy.
Or like blow up planets, either way it's cool, we promise. Also just noticing the repurposed Imperial March to sound like a recruiting song.
Solo.
Holy crap, how bold is that move? I don't think it's that Han didn't have a last name, it's that he had no people, so the family name was meaningless to him if he had one. Han was always a loner.
We'll have you flying in no time.
Ha! Look at him fly. And since we know the Imperial March exists diegetically in universe, it taking on its sinister tone after the recruiting is done is just mwah. Well, he's clearly not a soldier, more of a gunslinger, which means Han was paying attention. Can't let a gunslinger get the drop on you. No wonder they were marked obsolete. That's a pretty solid image to depict Han, walking the opposite direction from all the followers. Now, that's an entrance. A disgusting entrance.
Yeah, I speak a little now.
Of course Han can speak Shriwook. And for those who thought this was shoehorned in, it should be obvious, but the two reasons Han does it is to get Chewie to listen to him before he drowns him, and so that the guards don't know what their plan is.
You will never have a deeper sleep than curled up in a Wookiee's lap.
Things pulled right from Jon Favreau's personal journal.
You couldn't have done this maybe like one at a time?
Water conservation.
You're putting our lives in the hands of morons.
You guys morons? No.
Honesty?
Go back to Leon's home.
You know Kit Fisto? That failed. Is that racist? Maven Detective Marty Hart. Gritty cop drama with robots. This fall on HBO.
I don't know if you said tribe or family.
What's the difference?
Profound. Especially for a man who's never had a family.
I don't know, you've never been to a Minoc roast on Ardinia.
So that's like a giant bat roast, but grosser. Saving Chewie. Twice. Okay, so rotating counterweighted trains to take corners at higher speeds are amazing by themselves. But with that information known, having the guards wear magnetic boots? Nice. Gives this planet a sense of lived-in history.
You're planning my retirement?
Thinking about opening a cantina somewhere warm, but not too warm.
Oh, Rio. I would have loved to believe you were the silent owner of Mos Eisley Cantina. But if you're going to talk about retirement... More importantly, Rio's CGI is just about flawless. Not once does he break my suspension of disbelief. Anyone else get a Ghost in the Shell feel from Memphis Nest theme? Don't hate it. Those are some pretty badass bad guy moves. Well, girl. Also, she turns out to not be so bad. I'm all confused. That's also the first hint at that, I might add. I scoffed a little the first time through, like just cut his hand off. But now it makes sense.
No good to die alone, kid.
And I'll say that Favreau definitely doesn't hurt in bringing Rio to life. Self-sacrifice. And I know, for money, well, in her mind, Dryden and her Crimson Dawn would kill them all anyway if they failed, so she was doing what she could to protect Beckett. Remember, he said,
We're gonna clear our debts.
Not just collect our reward.
What I tell you, Han?
Chewie, grab the line!
Just for the record, Beckett was dead if Chewie didn't grab him there. Fun little detail. That's just a sick explosion.
You have any idea what it's like to live with a price on your head?
Well, I said, let's get a space yacht, and my wife said, those don't exist. Our relationship hasn't been the same ever since. I want to make a Futurama joke about a head in a jar, but really, this dude just needs to watch out for the eye hole man.
Don't look at anybody, just keep your eyes down.
Following directions. Well, you spend 3 years with the Dothraki horde and you clean up. Oh, is this movie the reason Game of Thrones got pushed a year? Never mind. This movie gets a 0. I'm out.
I was coming back for you.
It's in the past, Han.
Right there. You know she's not the same person. And Danny sells it so well. It's worth a couple wins.
What should we drink to?
Let's drink 2 and see where it goes.
Eloquence.
Han and I grew up together on Corellia.
Finally. Thank you. Cliché dodge. Everyone always lies for manufactured tension. So here's a fun fact. You may have noticed the stretch mark look and striations on Dryden's face intensifying with his anger and assumed that that was the plan from the beginning. But it was actually Paul Bettany's insanely intense performance that made Ron Howard decide to add the saturation increase. Performance dictating effects is a rare occurrence. That's a Sith holocron, right? So like, mall shadowing? And look, this room, like this movie, is filled to the brim with nods and Easter eggs. Red Boba Fett type Mandalorian armor, probably a nod to the Death Watch, a crystal skull, maybe the idol from Indiana Jones.
We've already got the pilot.
Come on, haven't you heard of Han Solo? He did the Kessel Run in less than 12. Wait.
He's the best smuggler around.
Compliments.
He's attractive.
Compliments.
Sophisticated with impeccable taste.
Compliments.
Charisma.
Compliments.
Not to mention his prodigious.
Compliments.
Stake me.
Don't listen to him.
Chewie has always had Han's number.
Anything, Han?
It's Han.
Ha! Does Lando call Han Han because of this?
So this is, Sabak?
Sabak.
Love these two hustlers playing off each other. That has to be Lando letting Han know he knows he's trying to hustle him.
What are you flying?
DCX 100.
You want a ghost? And all around the table, another great mix of practical and CG effects from the Storyverse.
I like this kid.
You're adorable.
Well, now that's just politeness. Well, that's a fun musical cue to introduce the Falcon.
Installed an escape pod and the mandible notch.
Yeah, you might as well throw that out right now. We don't like the way it looks.
I'm gonna need half the take.
25%.
I'm willing to do this for 40%.
25.
25% works.
You're down to 20.
I don't like it. I don't agree with it, but I accept it.
You could say that this deal is getting worse all the time.
My mom, on the other hand, most amazing woman I've ever known.
That explains why he's so respectful to women. Okay, hyperspace was done practically in frame with a projector displaying images in front of the cockpit. Nothing done in post. That's incredible. Exactly.
It's a lot of capes.
Maybe too many capes.
Nah, I stand by my statement in Revenge of the Sith. Life would be better if politicians and really just everybody wore capes.
Am I interrupting something?
At least 3PO didn't know any better.
Assume everyone will betray you and you will never be disappointed.
It's interesting. It's as if Han learned that lesson at the end of this movie, but then let his guard down again after meeting Luke and Leia to only be double-crossed by Lando later on.
You need anything?
Equal rights?
Yeah, Lando, this is America. I don't even know where they're from. Really taking that space as sea motif full frame with the floating buoys of light. And this is where the dark works and adds to the atmosphere of space. Ha. Atmosphere.
Mining colonies are the worst.
Yeah, well, the worst is where the money is.
Took that lesson to heart. Poor Chewie, always the fake prisoner, never the bride or guard. Also, Beckett's wearing Lando's mask from Jedi and actually using it as a mask rather than pulling it down for the camera.
I am Oksana Florin, Deputy Assistant Administrator to the Vice Admiral of the Federation, here with an offer from His Eminence, Senior Vice Admiral.
Those are probably all real people, but the great thing about the Star Wars universe is that it doesn't matter. The actual universe is so big, you can just make up a bunch of titles and names, and just because someone has never heard of them doesn't mean they aren't real. Finally! Now the only question that remains is what do droids do when they lose?
Free your brothers and sisters or something.
Freeing your brothers and sisters. Or something. This must be a distant relative of the trash can droid inside the Jawa's transport from New Hope. Almost the same exact sound. So it's like some final vindication for those droids. Although 3PO talks about getting sent to the
Vice Mines of Kessel.
So apparently this rebellion fails?
Here, you might need this.
Generosity. Which, you know, it's also like a meaningful gesture that validates the plight of the Wookiees and the type of thing that would create a lifelong bond. Anti-Stormtrooper aim, which I'd just like to point out, I always hear how unbelievable it is for anyone to be so calm and aim so well in situations like this. But that's the point. That's why he aims so well, because he's calm and clearly doesn't care about taking lives.
That's what I said!
Negotiation skills.
The Calrissian Chronicles, Chapter 5. Continued.
In a less competent actor's hands, this is cut so fast. So, issues with L3 aside, the fact that they blended performance capture, vocap, with CGI in a new way brings her into the film in such a believable way. For most of her scenes, the actress acted everything out, wearing parts of the L3 robot suit. Yeah, Chewie to the rescue. Classic Han. What have they done to you, 3PO? Just in general, this is a fun action set-piece shootout, but there are two shots that stand out where the camera follows the subject just a little longer and closer. In the first, it adds to the exhilaration of the moment Lando goes to save L3, and the other is a calming down as Han backs into the Falcon. A shot that's been filmed so many times in different episodes and cut so much earlier.
Han, get us out of here! Han, now!
On it.
And while I really love that Lando and Han's relationship has clearly always been, let's say, competitive at best, tempestuous at worst, even in a moment of chaos, Han waits for permission to fly Lando's ship. Another musical cue to warm the soul.
Could use a co-pilot.
Again? Hashtag where's Chewie's medal.
I got a really good feeling about this.
No feelings were harmed in the wait, so then some feelings were harmed in the making of this scene? I'm all confused again.
Did you hear me? Are they on us? Like Ragnall on a Kylax. I don't know what that means. Like a Gengerson's pelt. What are they or aren't they?
Ha! Another cliche dodge that goes along with the idea of how big the universe is. Not everyone is going to understand your references, and no one wants to be a red grin grumpled. Dish whip!
Since when do you know how to fly? 190 years old?
You know, I don't know how many casual Star Wars fans are watching this movie, but Wookiees living a long time is a fun detail they probably never heard.
You look great!
And more compliments. Everyone was so nice when the Empire was in control.
A little something I picked up from my pal Needles. Best street racer in all of Corellia. Till he crashed and died doing this.
Yeah, well, street racing against Marty McFly means Flea wasn't in a ship that'll make 0.5 past light speed.
She's interfacing.
Well, this explains why 3PO thought the Falcon had a peculiar dialect. Wouldn't be Star Wars without a huge, creepy space monster. And I gotta say, this one takes it to a new level. Space Sarlacc Pit, which technically makes this another There's Always a Bigger Fish sequence.
What are you doing? That's the escape pod!
I know.
Han did say he made modifications. I gotta say, that was an expectation subversion for me and gave us another Han counting down to failure moment with the same Falcon depowering sounds.
Punch it!
I hate you.
I know.
True love.
And then I don't ever want to see you again.
Never?
That's pretty childish, Gambino. Oh, that's just don't do that. Finally got to use that shot from the deleted scenes in A New Hope. And if you're annoyed that Enfys Nest's crew killed Rio, as you should be, she can't control her whole crew and Rio was shooting at them. Not the best defense, but just because she's hoping to start a rebellion doesn't mean she's not willing to kill some train robbers to support her cause. She takes her helmet off in the end, hoping she can appeal to their humanity. I think killing them all is still probably on the table. I know everyone thinks Warwick is Weasel from Phantom Menace, I just think he may also be Wicked's great-great-grandpa.
The object isn't to win, it's just to stay in it as long as you can.
You don't know everything.
No. Just a bit more than you.
I really liked this movie up until this moment, but from this moment forward, about half an hour left, I love this movie. The cat and mouse betrayals, who knows what, who's with whom, and a small-scale finale in a single room on a space yacht. Enfys Nest to the rescue! Double-edged laser knives / brass knuckles are cool new weapons, and a last bit of mall shadowing. Brutal. Love. Wow. I know Clone Wars is canon, but I think most of us just thought it was canon the way that Marvel's Netflix is canon with the MCU, really only going one direction. But nope. Here we see TV robotic-legged Maul with his most likely half-original, half-Inquisitor lightsaber and voiced by Sam Witwer. But also some slowed-down Duel of the Fates in the background acknowledging that the prequels happened for people who knew nothing about the Clone Wars.
Kira.
Although, I guess if you were to Google how is Maul alive, you'd be led to watch Clone Wars. Smart play, Disney. Lightsaber reflection in Kira's eyes.
I hope you're still paying attention because now I'm going to tell you the most important.
Yep, I know. Terrible thing to win. But when it comes to Han, it's what we all wanted. And I even forgive the insert of Beckett's finger moving to his trigger. And this line.
That's a smart move, kid. I would have killed you.
Han shoots first. No matter what happens after, he couldn't have been sure. But that's who Han is now, who he should have been all along. And like I said earlier, Han was paying attention.
Fair and square, baby, fair and square.
One more scene that takes on a new meaning now. Cheating a cheater is technically fair and square. Yep. Solo, a Star Wars flop, which is so sad to me. Not because I need everyone to be happy and everyone's projects to be successful and la-di-da. I mean, I do, but it's sad because this movie took risks that weren't rewarded. I spoke about how much I love the simple, low-key finale, which is a direct affront to every other Star Wars movie finale. Writers and directors are going to be very hard-pressed to convince Disney to ever take that particular risk again. Especially because this movie didn't fail because of that. Going in, I wondered if it flopped because it was bad or if people just don't care enough. And I think it failed because people didn't care. Julia likes Rogue One more than some of the numbered Star Wars movies. So she wanted to see this, but making that work with a 1-year-old is tough and it just didn't happen for us. So I missed it in theaters, which probably says as much about why it flopped as anything else. I just wasn't super excited about it. And if I'm not excited, who is? Or less, not excited, just sort of meh. Star Wars fatigue is a real thing, and so far that seems to be the only lesson Disney is taking from this. That said, this movie did a few things really well, and I'd even call newish. For one, the lack of a true baddie for Han, as if the true villain is the crime way of life as a concept. Han's fighting with being a good guy while doing bad things.
I'm an outlaw.
Dryden isn't directly his enemy, nor does he even get to kill him. Beckett was his friend, and even in the end died solidifying an important lesson he'd been trying to impart to him the whole movie. You could say that Kira ends up really being the bad guy, but not in an adversarial way. More as a representation of the past he's trying to hold onto, or redemption he's trying to earn that's long gone and unobtainable now. So you could complain that there's no clear villain, but I think it subverts expectation in a good way. Because it was originally intended as a trilogy, it feels a little incomplete, but it still does a good job of answering questions about why Han is the way he is, which is really all it had to do. When we first meet Han in episode 4, while he's not alone, you get the sense that he's always been alone. He'd clearly give his life for Chewie, but it's like they're alone together. So to start this movie, losing Kira and being named by some random Imperial recruiting officer creates this sense of, well, solo-ness. And then by the end, he learns that there are no people he can trust, even those he never questioned. Don't get me wrong, there are some real problems with this film, and I think we all suspected one of the biggest of them walking into this movie. This doesn't feel like a story that anyone was dying to tell. And I'll admit that that's a problem when it comes to corporate movies in general. A lot of the time, they're just churning out products. Which can be fine as long as those corporate overlords find someone with a story, or even just a voice, just something. Ultimately, this movie is good, but just good. There is one glaringly big problem, even if I get what they were going for. The seedy underbelly movie is categorically dark. And it works sometimes, others... See, when I write scripts, I watch the movie in VLC where I have a preset for brightness and saturation issues because most movies are usually too dark for me anyway. But I always make sure to watch movies first on a TV with all the intended visuals. And oh man, is this movie too dark. I could be totally wrong, but it doesn't seem like an on-location lighting issue. I mean that I don't know that I blame the DP, I think I blame the editor in post-production. These are scenes where it seems like the gamma correction was dropped right off. There's light in this scene, but it's been artificially dimmed down, right? Even the behind-the-scenes stuff on the monitors looks brighter than the final product. Not something that ruins the movie for me, but it's an issue that should have been corrected for the Blu-ray. So we got an SJW robot parody, or not, I'm not really sure which way she was intended, but she was honestly funny at times.
You're gonna have to do that thing again later.
Annoying at others. However, I thought the actor that portrayed her, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, was really great.
Follow those guys to get clipped and tagged.
What are they clipping?
There seems to be a lot of disagreement on Alden Ehrenreich. I guess I fall somewhere in the middle. I get that it's hard to have a different actor play a role that millions of people love and identify with, especially an origin story. We tend to feel like we own him. I'll say that I agree Donald Glover was doing more of a Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian impression, and I thought he was great, but Alden wasn't so much channeling Harrison as much as the vague idea of Han Solo. And I thought it worked really well. He was like Han 1.0. He doesn't have all the quirks worked out, and he's not fully the Han Solo we meet in A New Hope, but I like that he made the character his own without losing what made him fun. I need someone to give Amelia a challenging role, because seeing her speak as herself, she's a completely different person from any character she's portrayed. I know she has range, she's just getting typecast. If, and only if, this and Genesis don't tank her career, I guarantee she'll blow our socks off at some point and will probably win awards for something. Vague, I know, but she's way more talented than the role she's given. Then you got Paul Bettany as an intimidating if not generic villain, Woody Harrelson doing his thing. No part of the cast was a problem, that's for sure. So let's talk about fan service again. And maybe this will make you lose respect for me. C'est la vie.
Kashiki and moof milker?
No one likes getting tricked or manipulated, but here's the thing. 3 specific things kept running through my mind as I watched this. And maybe it's because I understand the formulas of these types of movies. Maybe. But I wanted to see, all for good narrative reasons, Han shoot someone first, Han get the Falcon, and Chewie rip someone's arms off. Not joking. I couldn't help but think those specific things watching this film. And if they'd ignored them, I would have been a little sad. Why pretend like these characters exist in a vacuum? Okay. So I got what I wanted and fun add-ons, like where Han got his gun, how he got his name, and how he met both Lando and Chewie. And while those things are important to me, they're still not as important as telling an interesting and relevant story. Which this movie also did. Speaking of fan service, I hate to be that guy, but man, it's gonna bug me if I don't say this. Han said the ship did the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs, not him. I mean, Ben was specifically asking if the Falcon was a fast ship. Here, listen.
If it's a fast ship. Fast ship? You've never heard of the Millennium Falcon? It's a ship that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs.
Guys, come on. We don't really believe Lucas meant anything near what took place in this movie, right? After he got called out, he came up with a navigation explanation. He just wrote the wrong word, which was fine. They even fixed it in the novelization, and the script showed that Ben knew he was lying and just bragging. That said, I don't really care. Fill in the plot holes or contrivances all you want. I'll watch Star Wars story movies until the continuity is all cleaned up to MCU caliber. It'll make the overall saga more entertaining in the end. And I do love that it quickly becomes part of his repertoire, like not just for Luke and Ben.
Just did the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs.
I like to believe that every person he meets. Hi, I'm Han Solo, I did the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. And he gets these puzzled looks every time, but never gets to explain what that even means. It's like that neighbor of yours, he's nice enough, but a little off, and every time you see him, he tries to bring up the time he drove from the east to west coast in less than 1,900 miles, and in your head, you know it's 3,000 miles, but why bother arguing with him because you can't win, so what's the point? Another thing Solo does more than other Star Wars films is start to address the relationship between humans and droids with AI.
How would that work?
That works.
While it's played for a joke at first, there's some real emotion in there, and then it takes an interesting turn. But to talk more about that, I'm going to send you to my buddies over at Space Taste, who just put out a video specifically examining that. Space Taste explores ethical themes and dilemmas of both new and classic sci-fi films. Some they've analyzed so far, like Ant-Man, The Truman Show, Back to the Future, basically seeing how our current world would deal with things like AI, cloning, time travel, you know, the things that make sci-fi fun. But also the ethical repercussions of things that are coming soon in our world, as well as some we're already dealing with. They're just starting out, so you have a chance to leave one of those here before 1,000 subs, here before 100,000 subs comments. And then everyone will know how cool you are. So check them out, subscribe, and let them know I sent you. They upload once a week, and who knows, maybe they'll take your request. Links are in the description or at the end cards at the end of the video.
Mining colonies are the worst.
Yeah, well, the worst is where the money is.
Having trouble with your droid? No. No problem. Why?